Hello, everyone. This is Aaron at Power Popaholic, and I am thrilled today to talk to one of my favorite bands, the Weeklings. And who we have here is Zeke Weekling, Bob Berger. Welcome, Bob.
Nice to be here.
Great. So we're talking about the Weeklings' new album, In Their Own Right.
Yep.
Which is, for all intents and purposes, a live greatest hits album. Correct?
It is. It's a live greatest hits of our own music. Yeah. So
this is comprised of how many different concerts did you have to get recordings from to make this album?
it's really only from 2 sessions. We did a video live stream back in the summer of 2020. And most of the record is taken from that video live stream. So
great. So I know you and Glenn are the primary songwriters,
right?
For this, and I was going to ask. I'll ask you. I'll see if I know Glenn might join us, but if he doesn't, you can answer this question first. I know it's challenging. Tell me how challenging it is to write a Weekling song, because you want the listener to identify with the Beatlesque style, but you don't want necessarily the listener sort of going around saying, "Oh, you stole that bridge from A Hard Day's Night," or I hear that bass line from this other song. So what's the process a little bit?
I mean, actually, we do want listeners to do that.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, we do it intentionally. We intentionally take little bits and pieces and stick them in just to see how many people can find. They're sort of like, we call them Easter eggs. And
yeah,
and sometimes we do, we've got this, even after the song is written and we're arranging and rehearsing, somebody will have an idea. Oh, we can throw this little line, this little bit. Sometimes they're really, really short, and sometimes they're very subtle. And sometimes we even forget we did it. It's kind of a little game that we play. We stick them in there. The songwriting itself, we don't find it exceedingly difficult. I mean, Glenn and I have written songs together for many, many years. And over those years, we have had to struggle at times to avoid sounding too Beatlesque if we were doing something that wasn't Beatlesque. So,
right.
Writing Beatlesque songs is kind of comes naturally because it's really part of our childhood DNA, so.
Yeah, and I love it. I have a soft spot in my heart for all Beatlesque pop. But the cool thing is, like the Sponge Tones, another band that I always like to sort of bring up when we talk about Beatlesque music, is the fact that your music sounds Beatlesque enough, but it doesn't necessarily sound like you're copying whole songs wholesale. You're not copying or pulling stuff wholesale from the Beatles songbook. It's basically you're alluding to it with a lot of flourishes and a lot of licks, and maybe a bass line here and there or something to that effect. What I also love, and you mentioned Easter eggs, I love some of the clues in the lyrics that are there. I mean, I found one example is in the song 1,000 Miles Away. The first line, this bird has flown.
Yeah.
Is in there.
There's an even better reference in that song.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
I know. I'm not sure I want to tell you, but there's the reference to a Paul McCartney song that is not a well-known song.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So people go out there.
It's on Anthology, so I'm gonna leave it to you to figure it out.
All right, great. No, that's fine. We want our listeners to dig into the song and basically find that piece of trivia. So selecting the songs that you like, because you did do quite a bit of songs over the first 2 albums, and I thought the third album was also phenomenal. It's like it got better every time you did it, and 3 was incredible, and then this one basically is a culmination of taking some of the better songs from 1 and 2 and 3 as well, and then putting it all together into a live album. Right. What was the process of picking the songs to begin with? Was it like, we like this song, but we can do it better on stage? Or is it, 2 from album 1, 2 from album 2, did you try and even it out? What did you try?
It
What was the
really
process?
wasn't like that. I mean, I tend to write the set list for the shows. So, and I remember for that, that event, we wanted to have a representation of our early stuff and our later stuff. I think it's a little more weighted toward the later stuff. And so in their own right is weighted toward the later stuff, but we
Yeah.
put some early stuff on there too. And there's songs like, like for example, Mona Lisa, which is on our first record, that we do it better now. We've had several years of playing it under our belts, and so the live recording is I think a lot better than the original studio recording. Not only performance, but also we did it in stereo, whereas the first album was in mono. So now you get to hear the song in stereo. I think it's more exciting. There wasn't a real definite plan, but we did want to represent other stuff. I mean, Rocky, John Marjabi's favorite song is Leave Me With My Pride, which is off the first record. And I'm not sure what Smokestack Joe Bolia's favorite one is. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, one thing that I noticed also with the Weeklings that you guys started with a template of playing first songs that kind of the Beatles gave away to other bands in the beginning that they didn't publish themselves. And then, but you stayed with the style of I like to call it 64 to 66 style. You sort of cut it off right around Yellow Submarine. You've kind of gone over the line, I think, once in a while. You did a great version of Hey Bulldog, as well as, other stuff that aren't quite Beatlesque, but are from that same era, I think. Tell me, is there a conscious effort to keep it more like, the mop top era, as opposed to going into the psychedelic era? And is that something that you want to dip your toe into, or you and Glenn want to sort of do something a little bit more psychedelic?
We do, and we have actually. If you listen to if you heard the John Lennon tribute record, the Gem Records John Lennon tribute record,
yes,
which we have 2 songs on, we did 2 things on that. When we did our cover of The Word, because that's a cover album, but we did the cover of The Word, we did it in a completely different way. It's nothing like the way the Beatles did it. So
I think that's pretty unique. I love the way you sort of change the arrangement around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm into doing that. Like first we were into, as you say, we took the Beatles songs that they didn't record and tried to reimagine them the way the Beatles as a early quartet would have done it. And that was kind of the genesis of the first album, but we're not doing that now. And if you listen to our version of What's the New Mary Jane, that one is definitely psychedelic. We borrowed a lot from I Am the Walrus, and in fact, I'll let you know a secret here.
Sure.
So on I Am the Walrus, the ending speaking parts that they used were taken from a John Gielgud production of King Lear, Shakespeare's King Lear, and you can actually get that recording separate from the Beatles. Somebody actually found it. It's from the 40s or something.
Really?
So we used different pieces of it than the Beatles used in I Am the Walrus. So you hear the same voice as it was used in I Am the Walrus, but he's not saying the same thing.
Okay. Glenn's here. Glenn's joined us. Hello, Glenn. So one of the things I was asking was how you write the songs, and what was shared to me with Zeke here is that it's easier for you to come up with Beatlesque songs because it's in your DNA. But do you really purposely put together songs that put together parts of the Beatles songs without being like ripping them off, making them original compositions that people want to hear?
Well, I beg to differ. I think we do rip them off, and and their lawyers are chasing us as we speak.
I liked we talked about some of the Easter eggs in the songs and the lyrics, as well as some of the musical parts, and fans love it. I love it. I think it's enough where if you didn't hear a Beatles song before, you want to go to the back catalog and hear it now, And I know that you basically stayed in the realm of what I like to call the mop top era, 64 through 66, and you have done dipped your toe in the water a little bit with some of the psychedelic era. Is there any chance we're going to see some more psychedelic era, Sergeant Pepper era, and beyond uh, Beatles style songs?
Sure, I guess. What do you say, Bob?
I say if it happens, yeah. I mean, we deliberately, when we recorded a bunch of our songs at Abbey Road Studios, we primarily for the Studio 2 record, we held back 5 songs that we didn't think belonged on the Studio 2 because they were later Beatlesque sounding. And they
Right.
ended up on the 3 album, which we view as a progression away further beyond the Mop Top, probably toward the Revolver era.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was kind of our plan, was to evolve in the same trajectory as the Beatles did. But, who knows if we'll actually do it exactly like that. I think lately we've been getting a little more into not necessarily the Beatles, into other, some of the songs on 3, Change Your Mind and 765 aren't really so Beatlesque at all.
Right. Well, I think that's that variety is always helpful in an album. It sort of doesn't pigeonhole you entirely in that as well. So that, I think that's growth, and I like the progression, as you mentioned. Getting maybe from the Rubber Soul to the Revolver album and then beyond, which I think is important. Glenn, do you want to tell me a little bit about how the band first formed? I mean, I saw you live first a long time ago, actually. I think I actually saw you at JFK when you were with the Liverpool band, basically at the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' arrival in JFK. And how did the genesis of the Weeklings take place? I mean, give me a short version.
Well, Bob and I have known each other for over 30 years, I'm sure, and so there's that, and then many years later I joined Liverpool at Beatlefest, and that's where John Murjavi, our lead guitarist, came from. Joe Balia is kind of from our neck of the woods, and Bob and I have both played with him separately on different occasions, but there were some shows that we were doing, I guess about 10 years ago, these Beatle bashes, we called them, and they were in New Brunswick, and where we were celebrating, I would celebrate the 40th anniversary of Sergeant Pepper, and then the next year it was like, the 45th anniversary of whatever, we were just following some kind of calendar there. And when we got to the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' first 2 albums, all those other things, doing Sgt. Pepper, doing the White Album, in their entirety, you required a horn section, a string section, sometimes a choir, all these extra auxiliary musicians. But when we did the birth of the Beatles, the first 2 albums, you don't really need all those bells and whistles. It's most of it, or much of it, is really just 4 parts. And so those 4 parts fell to Bob and John and myself and our drummer, and we discovered that the arranging of the original quartet of the Beatles was really cool. Like the way the guitars stayed out of each other's way, the way the harmonies were almost never more than 3 voices at a time. There were a lot of things. There was an occasional piano here and there and some hand claps and stuff like that. But for the most part, we kind of made the discovery that making music as a quartet is pretty cool.
Great. And
So that became the Weeklings.
very nice. How would you compare, and this is a tough comparison, how would you compare playing and managing, you know, the Weeklings as compared to the other band that I've seen you play live in, the orchestra, where you do have all those bells and whistles and,
Yeah.
you know, and it is an orchestral type
Sure.
of sound as opposed to four guys, you know, doing the harmonies.
Well, it's very much like that show. You know, like playing with a quartet. Each ingredient is pretty special, and you keep an eye on those ingredients, and also really a big difference is in a way you could say that the Weeklings are a bait and switch. You know, we kind of started as a tribute-ish act,
Yeah.
and you know, so if you're a Beatles fan, you want to come see the Weeklings, and then we sneak in these other songs, which many of them sound like early Beatles songs, but we wrote them, and so what the Weeklings have that I guess nobody else has is that we are sort of a tribute. We've got our foot in two doors. We're a tribute act that plays original music, which, you know, that's not really even a tribute act, right? So we kind of have like I said, a foot into each door. So so we're kind of an original band, and we get airplay on original songs and covers, but it's kind of an interesting thing that we accidentally happened upon.
I think it's great, and you know, more power to doing the bait and switch, because you get more people listening to music because they expect a cover, and they get something original which sounds sometimes better than the cover, and I think that's a good approach for, you know, a lot of bands. But you're the first band I know that's really done that extensively, and I think it's great. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time here, and I wanted to just you know, congratulate both of you and thank you both for this quick interview. And also, you have some live dates planned now that, you know, venues are starting to come back and stuff like that?
We do. We have a couple more orchestra dates, actually. We did an orchestra date last weekend in Tarrytown, New York, where we did get the string section and the horn section, all the bells and whistles, and we did do a lot of the later music, Beatle music. And then we did our own music too. It was like two shows in one. And we're going to be doing that again at Lehigh University and in Tom's River, the Gruden Center at Tom's River coming up.
Wow. Okay, cool. Well, once again, everyone, check out the Weeklings.com. I'm going to try and clean up what I can on the technical issues, but I appreciate all the help you gave with the answers and and everything. Thanks so much.
Very welcome.
All right. Have a great night.
Yep. Thanks. You
Bye.
too.